Alright, hello guys and welcome back to this channel. So in this video I'll be going over player trails and how you can make parts that will give a specific trail to a player whenever they're touched. So first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick rundown on the different properties of a trail and how you can make unique trails for your players. Alright, so now I have a part inserted inside of the workspace. I'm going to first make the trail follow this part right now so you can just see. So I'm going to create a new trail object inside of the part. Now the trail objects need two attachments to work. So you can go into the part and click and search for attachment and add an attachment into the part. An attachment is a point that is inside of a specific part, such as this. And we need two of these attachments to make the trail work. So I'm just going to duplicate it and put it to the very bottom. And I'm going to name this attachment at the top attachment 0 and the attachment on the bottom attachment 1. So inside of the trail here, what you want to do is you go down to this the properties section, and under data you set attachment 0 to attachment 0 and attachment 1 to attachment 1. Alright, so now if we begin to move this part around, you'll see that there's this white trail following the part. Now this trail is kind of boring right now, so let's see how we can make this more interesting. So let's click on the trail and see the properties. First of all is the color. Obviously, white is a bit boring, so let's just change it to something, I don't know, something like this color, I guess. And we move it, now we have a color that's kind of blue. So a single color is still quite boring, so what you can do is you go over here and click on the three dots, and this will open up a color sequence editor. So you can set the trail's color to be a sequence of colors instead of just one single color. So to do that, you just open this editor, and you can see there's two triangles, one on either side. So what you can do is you can click one of these triangles, and you can edit the color of the trail at that specific point. So for example, I just clicked on this triangle over here, and now I can click color, and I'm going to set it to something like green. So now you can see that the trail will start from green and will gradually turn to a more bluish color, as demonstrated right now. So it starts off being green, and then as it progresses, it will become more and more blue. Alright, so let's move on. Let's see. Color emission and light emission and light influence. Light emission is just the neonish of the trail. So it doesn't actually emit light, so you can't make it to illuminate some surface, but it does make it look like it's more neon-like. Yeah. So light influence is just how influential the environmental light is on the color of the trail. So if it's set to 0, then it's going to look the same wherever it is, regardless of the light in the environment. It doesn't really affect the looks too much, so you don't have to worry about that a lot. So texture, there's some texture settings. So texture is just basically images that are repeated on the trail. So I'm going to go into the toolbox, and let's see what images we have in the toolbox. Okay, let's see. Yeah, let's use this. Let's use this image. So I'm going to click that, and that is now inside of the trail. So we don't actually need the object itself. We need the URL. So go down here to the properties tab of the decal, and you can copy the image, copy the texture URL. So once we've done that, we cannot delete this decal. We're not going to need it anymore. So now we can paste the URL into this texture property, and it might take some time to load, so we're not seeing it right now. It's going to take some time to load, but eventually we'll have that image being repeated on the trail, which will hopefully be soon. And yeah. Alright, first let's move on to the next few properties over here. So transparency is pretty straightforward. Oh, the text just loaded. Alright, I guess we can talk about the texture settings right now. Alright, so let's go. So first, texture length. Texture length is, it's quite self-explanatory. So for example, if you have a texture length of 5 right now, then there will be 5 of the images on the trail. As you can see over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 images on the trail. And if I set it to like 10, and then I move it, then there will be 10 of these images on the trail. So there are a few modes of texture applied to the trail. So the default is stretch, and that basically means there's always 10 images on the trail, and they're stretched to fit the length of the trail, such as this. So if the trail is short, then all of the images are short. If it's long, then all of the images are long. So next we have static. So static basically means that the images don't move at all. So yeah, as you can see, the images does not move while the part is moving around. And finally, we have wrap, and wrap basically is the same as static. However, the parts move when the textures move, the images move when the part moves, like this. And yeah, that's basically what wrap is. All right, so now we can talk about transparency. So it's basically the same as other transparency settings in the game, except you can set it to a number sequence. So similarly to the color, if you go down here, there's 3 dots. If you click on it, this will open up a number sequence editor. So similar to the color sequence editor, you have a point at the start and a point at the end. So you can move it up to adjust the transparency at the start. For example, if we do this, then you'll see that the trail is very transparent at the start and then becomes opaque at the end, as dictated by this graph. So what you can also do is, I'm going to set it to quite opaque right now, and you can click on the center to add a new data point, and this you can affect how the trail looks or behaves in the middle of the trail, I guess. So as you can see over here, it started off being quite opaque, and then it becomes transparent, and then back opaque again, as dictated by this graph over here. Right, now let's see what other properties can we talk about. So there's emission. So emission is kind of like the physical properties of the trail, I guess. So first of all, lifetime is just how long it exists in seconds. So for example, 7, then this trail will exist in 7 seconds after it's been emitted. So yeah. Next we have maximum length. So this is quite self-explanatory again. So if I set it to 10, then the trail cannot exceed 10 studs long. So this is 10 studs long, and the trail physically cannot exceed 10 studs long, despite the lifetime being set to 7. So the trail will always be cannot exceed a max length of 10. So min length is a bit less self-explanatory. I'm going to set it to 0, which means infinite maximum length. So minimum length, I'm just first going to set it to a value of, say, 20, and then you might see what it does. So I'm just going to drag it around, and as you can see, the trail is being separated into many segments, and each of these segments will have a length of 20. So the min length is the length of the segments that the trail is being emitted as. So right here, each of these segments has a length of 20. So I'm just going to show this one more time. If I set this minimum length to 0.1, then you can see that the trail is much, much smoother. Right, so next we have width scale. Now this value goes from 0 to 1, and that's just how wide or how skinny the trail is. And yeah, so let's see, if I set the width scale to something like 0.2, then you can see the trail is quite skinny. And also, again, you can set it to a number sequence to create some funny effects. So for example, something like this. And then you just pull it, and you'll see that the entire thing changes the width as it goes through its lifetime. So that's basically most of the important properties under the trail object. So now let's see how we can make a trail giver part. So first, I've seen a lot of people watching my videos or other videos on Roblox pseudo scripting saying that after they watch the video, their own scripts don't work, and sometimes while they're doing something, their own scripts break. And I think this is because while you're watching the video, if you're copying everything you see on the screen onto your own script, you're not actually learning a whole lot from it, right? I mean, if you're just going to copy all of the words from the script, you're not understanding how it really works. I mean, you might learn something, but it's not as much as if you actually understand how the entire script works. So I think it would be a good idea if instead of me just directly giving you guys these scripts, I'll just give you a few hints that will lead you in the right direction. And at the end, I'll still reveal to you how you can actually make these and the actual script for the thing I'm making. But hopefully, if you try this out for yourself following the hints, you'll actually be learning something useful and able to script something without the help of these tutorials. Alright, so with that out of the way, first we have to be clear about our objective. So, whenever a player touches the part, we give them a trail. Alright, so that is the main objective. So the first part is to detect whenever the player actually touches that part. So to do that, we use a touched event, which is something that is triggered every time, something, it doesn't have to be a player, touches a part. Right, so to use this touched event, so first I'm going to define some variables equals script.parent and then local trail equals to part.trail. So to use the touch event, simply do part.touched connect function hits. Right, so basically, whenever the part is touched, any code that is between this line and this line will run. And hit will now become a new variable name for the part that touches the parent of this script. Alright, so that is the first part of the script, detecting whenever the player actually touches the part. So next we want to give them the trail. So how do we do that? So every player's character will have something called a humanoid root part. Now the humanoid root part is basically something that is right at the center of their character. Alright, so we want to put the trail inside of their humanoid root part. Just as previously we put the trail inside of this part right here, we want to put this trail inside of the humanoid root part. But we don't want to put the original trail, we want to put a clone of that trail. Because if you put the original trail, the next time someone touches this part, there's not going to be a trail that is inside of this part, and, it's just not going to work. Alright, so the hint here is that we want to put, clone the trail and put the clone inside of the humanoid part. Alright, and then, if you remember from before, we can't just put the trail inside of the part. We have to set two properties, the attachment 0 and the attachment 1. So we need these two attachments inside of the player as well. So, second hint is to create attachment 0 and attachment 1. So we need to create these attachments inside of the player's humanoid root part. And then finally, we want to set the trails attachment properties. I'm spelling properties. Properties to the created attachments. Alright, so I'm just going to leave it right here, and you guys can have a go at finishing this script. So yeah, I'll reveal to you guys the final script after this. Alright, so hopefully you guys have already had a go of making this script by yourself. If not, it's okay, I'll be going over it right now. So let's just follow these guidelines. So first we're going to clone the trail and put the clone inside of the humanoid root part. But how are we going to get the humanoid root part? Right, so how do we know what part is the humanoid root part? We only have the part that touches the parent of the script. So hit, so first of all, let's do local character equals to hit.parent. So we create a new variable called character, and we put it to hit.parent. But first of all, we're not sure that this character variable actually refers to some character inside of the game. It might be some random part that happens to trigger the touch event. So we need to check if this is a character. So how are we going to do that? So if character find first child of class humanoid, right? So this means if the character variable has something inside of it of class humanoid, then, right, so only characters will have humanoids inside of them. So if there is a humanoid inside of this character variable, then we know that is in fact a character. So if it is a character, then we want to identify the humanoid root part, and doing that is pretty easy. Local humanoid root part equals to character colon find first child humanoid root part. But since characters almost always have a humanoid root part inside of them, we can just find the humanoid root part using the find first child function. Alright. So now that we have a variable referencing the humanoid root part, we want to clone the trail and put the trail inside of the humanoid root part. So local clone equals to trail colon clone. Alright, so this will create a duplicate of this trail. And now we can just do clone.parent equals to humanoid root part. So we're putting the clone inside of the humanoid root part using this statement. Alright. So next, this is the part where it's kind of tricky. So we're going to do this right now. Alright, so now we have to create an attachment 0 and an attachment 1. So to do that, we use the instance.new creator to create a new attachment object. And we set the second argument as the humanoid root part. This will automatically place the new attachment inside of the humanoid root part. Alright, so now we're just going to do local attachment 1 equals to instance.new attachment humanoid root part. We're just going to do that again. Alright, so the problem with this right now is that both of these attachments are at the same place. When you create attachments, they're automatically positioned at the center of the part. So we want to set them to different positions, right? Alright, so now we want to do something. So we want to have a variable that adjusts the width of the trail. So local width equals to something like 4 studs, for example. Alright, so we want the trail's width to be 4 studs. Now therefore, we want the attachments to be positioned 4 studs apart. So one at the top and one at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to do attachment 0.world position. So world position is the actual position of the attachment using world coordinates. If you just do normal attachment 0.position, that is the relative position relative to the humanoid root part. So we just want to use the world position right now. So attachment 0.world position, we're just doing plus equals to vector3.new 0 width divided by 2 0. Now this might look intimidating, but basically what I'm doing is I'm setting the position of the attachment. So this plus equals to sign basically means the attachment 0.world position equals to attachment 0.world position plus this thing on the right side. Now, what this thing on the right side does is that it will add the width divided by 2 to the height of the attachment. So this is the x coordinate, this is the y coordinate, the center one is the right y coordinate, and the last one is the z coordinate. So the y coordinate is how high something is in the world. So we want to add 2 because the width is 4. So it's going to be distributed across evenly with the 2 attachments. So we're going to set attachment 0.world position to be 2 studs higher than it currently is, and attachment 1.world position to be 2 studs lower than it currently is. So this minus equal sign is the same as the plus equal sign, except we're subtracting. So we're going to set the attachment 1.world position to be 2 studs lower than it already is. Alright, so that is this statement done. So now finally we want to set the trail's attachment properties to the created attachments. Alright, so that is just going to be clone.attachment 0 equals to attachment 0, and clone.attachment 1 equals to attachment 1. Alright, so that should be the script completed. But there's one more thing that we forgot to do. So that is, we don't want to give a trail to the player if they already have a trail. So if they touch this part multiple times, we don't want to give them multiple trails. Alright, so over here under the humanoid, under the place where we identify the humanoid root part, we're just going to check if they have a trail object inside of it already. So find first child of class trail. And then we're just going to return. Now return basically skips everything down here if there's nothing after it. So we're not going to run anything else if they already have a trail inside of them. So that should be the script completed. Now we're just going to play test it. So back inside of Studio here, and I just realized that I forgot to add a .new to this vector3.new thing over here. So it didn't work the first time I tested it, but it should work out right now. So I'm going to click play here, and I'm just going to test it out. All right. So now if I just touch this part, as you can see, we have this trail that is behind our player that is exactly the same trail as what we created a few minutes before. So yeah, that's how you make a trail giver part inside of Roblox Studio and design your own custom trails. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.